Welcome back to the deep dive. We're jumping straight into, well, a really interesting puzzle today. It's one that landed right here with us thanks to some source material you shared. It's basically a garden mystery.
That's right. Yeah, and it's pieced together through observation, some conversations, and expert advice, all gathered by two very keen students, Kesser and Steen. It was part of their Nature and Innovation class project.
Right. In the heart of this mystery is someone called Aunt Green. She's a gardener, and, well, sounds like she's been pretty unhappy lately.
Yeah, understandably so. Her pumpkin and squash plants, the one she loves, they're just refusing to grow. They get stalled, like completely stuck, right when they should be, taking off.
That sounds incredibly frustrating. A common problem, maybe, but for Aunt Green, it's really become a thing.
Definitely.
So our mission in this deep dive is really to unpack what Kesser and Steen found out. We need to understand the frustration Aunt Green's feeling, pinpoint the culprit behind these stalled plans based on what the students saw, and then explore the solutions they looked into and just see, well, where this investigation has taken Kesser and Steen.
Yeah, it's a great little case study, actually. Real-world problem solving, using observation, a bit of research.
Okay, so let's get started. Let's understand what was happening. Kesser and Steen, they basically acted as consultants for Aunt Green, right?
Yeah.
Took on her plant problem for their class.
Exactly. And her core issue was pretty stark. Her squash and pumpkin plants, full of potential, they just go nowhere once they're put in soil.
So it's that transition. Moving them into soil is the sticking point.
Seems like it. And to try and figure things out, Kesser and Steen started in a controlled way. They put the seeds in an incubator. The source calls it a cuvos. Basically a safe, warm spot to give the seeds the best possible start.
Like a little plant nursery pod. And the source says, in this cuvette, things went great.
Beautifully, yeah. The seeds sprouted roots, apparently really strong and healthy in just a few days. Everything looked, well, perfect at that stage.
Okay, success with germination.
Yeah.
But then, this is where the mystery starts.
Right. The moment these thriving little seedlings were moved, transplanted from the incubator into a tray with soil, all that energy just vanished.
Growth stopped.
Ground to a halt, the plants just sat there, didn't develop further.
Yeah.
So that told Kesser and Steen, okay, it's not the seeds themselves. It's not their ability to sprout. It has to be something happening in the soil.
Right, in the soil. And this is where Steen's observation comes in. He noticed something small.
Yeah, something you might easily ignore. He saw small black flies buzzing around Aunt Green's kitchen window.
Okay, flies in the kitchen window. You might just think, oh, fruit flies. Annoying, but harmless to plants, maybe.
That'd be the first guess, wouldn't it? But Steen connecting that with the struggling plants, it made them look closer at the soil where the plants were failing. And what they found there, that was the first big clue.
What was it?
Tiny white larvae. Really tiny, the source says only about 1 millimeter long. And they were active, crawling around the roots of those poor stalled plants.
Larvae. Okay, wow. Right there, where the roots needed to grow. So straight away, they must have wondered, are these connected to the flies? Are they banana fly larvae?
Kesser apparently wasn't convinced they were banana flies, even after checking a simple soap water trap they'd set. He thought the flies looked a bit different.
And Steen, he looked at the larvae themselves.
Yeah, with a magnifying glass. And he noted they looked more like tiny mosquito larvae than fly larvae. And he gave this amazing description, said they looked like a tiger with stripes.
A 1 millimeter striped tiger crawling in the soil.
Can you picture it? That detail really makes you see what they were dealing with down there at root level.
Like a tiger with stripes. Yeah, wow. That definitely paints a picture. A slightly creepy one. Okay, so tiny striped larvae eating roots, small black flies buzzing about. They knew they had a specific pest on their hands.
Not just general plant unhappiness.
So who do you turn to then when you got a plant pest mystery?
You go to the pros, which is exactly what Kesser and Steen did. Smart move. They went to the local garden center, found the man in the green shirt at the plant nursery. Those folks see everything.
The plant doctors? And did he know?
He did. Based on Kesser and Steen's description, the flies, the larvae, the stalled growth, he identified the problem. Fungus gnats?
Fungus gnats. Okay.
Or surgemeg, as the source names them, which apparently translates roughly to something like morning mosquito, maybe because of their dark wings.
Interesting name. So fungus gnats, are they common?
Oh, incredibly common, especially, with indoor plants. If you have house plants, you might have encountered these little guys.
Right. So let's unpack this pest, understand it. Because knowing the enemy is half the battle. Right. The adults, those are the flies Steen saw. Source says they look like small black flies, but maybe more slender, like a mosquito, with dark wings.
Correct. And the crucial thing, as the source points out, is that the adult gnats, well, they're annoying flying around your face, but they're not actually eating the plant.
They don't bite or chew leaves.
Nope. Their adult life is really short, maybe only 6 or 7 days. And in that time, they don't feed.
Okay, so the buzzing adults aren't the ones causing ant green's plant problems directly. What are they doing then in that short week?
They have one job: reproduction, laying eggs. That's their entire focus, and they're really good at it. A single female can lay, get this, up to 150 eggs.
150 eggs, wow. And where do they lay them?
In moist soil. That's the key, which is why our potted plants, kept nice and damp, become prime real estate for them indoors.
Ah, okay. The moist soil connection. That's starting to make sense now. So they lay eggs in the soil. What happens then?
Those eggs sit there for about 4 to 6 weeks, then they hatch, and out come those tiny white larvae with the little black heads, the ones Kesser and Steen found, the tigers.
The tiny tigers. Those are the culprits.
Those are the villains of the piece, yes.
So what are they doing down there? What are they eating?
They eat organic stuff in the soil, like, bits of decaying leaf matter. But crucially, the source highlights, they also feed directly on the plant's roots, especially the fine root hairs.
Ah, right on the roots.
Yeah. And if you have a lot of larvae, a heavy infestation, or maybe the plant is already a bit stressed, they can do significant damage. They're literally eating the plant's lifeline, the structure it needs to absorb water and nutrients.
That explains exactly why ant green's plants stopped growing the second they hit that soil. The roots, trying to establish, were just being munched on. The foundation was being eaten away before it could even build.
Precisely. It's like the worst timing for the plant. Just when it needs those roots the most, suddenly there's a horde of tiny mouths chewing on them.
Okay, so the larvae feed for a bit. What happens after the tiny tiger stage?
They feed for about 10 to 14 days, growing a bit bigger. Then they transition. They pupate. They form a little pupa in the soil, kind of like a caterpillar forming a chrysalis.
Okay, pupa stage. How long does that last?
Another roughly 4 to 6 days. Then out of that pupa emerges a brand new adult fungus gnat.
Ready to start the cycle all over again.
Exactly. Adult flies out, mates, finds moist soil, lays eggs. Eggs hatch into root-eating larvae, larvae pupate, new adult emerges. It's a continuous cycle if the conditions stay right.
And those right conditions, moist soil, explain why they're indoors, in Ant Green's kitchen, even though the source says in nature they prefer marshes and lakesides.
Yeah, basically a consistently watered potted plant is a miniature indoor marsh to a fungus gnat. It gives them the dampness the adults need for egg laying, and the soil provides food, organic matter, and roots for the larvae. We kind of create the perfect habitat for them sometimes without realizing it.
Right, okay, so Kesser and Steen now have their enemy identified, the fungus gnat. They understand the life cycle. They know the larvae are the root eaters. So logically, the next step is fighting back. The source mentioned prevention strategies.
Yes, and the #1 prevention tip highlighted in the source is simple but really effective. Avoid overwatering.
Just let the soil dry out a bit?
Exactly. Let the top layer of soil, maybe the top inch or two, dry out completely between waterings, because the adult gnats need that surface moisture to lay their eggs successfully. If it's dry, it's much less appealing to them. You break the cycle right there.
Makes sense. Cut off the nursery. Any other prevention tips?
Yeah, airing out the room regularly. They apparently don't like cold air or drafts much, so good ventilation can help discourage the adults.
Okay. And what about food for the larvae, besides roots?
Reducing that, too. So cleaning up any fallen leaves, bits of dead plant matter off the soil surface. That decaying stuff is food for them, so removing it makes the soil less hospitable overall.
Right. So prevention is about making the environment less attractive. But what about an active infestation like ant greens? The source mentioned non-toxic ways to fight them.
Yeah, lots of natural methods exist. One specific biological control was mentioned: predatory mites.
Predatory mites, like good bugs.
Exactly. Ravmiter is the term in the source. You can actually buy these beneficial mites and introduce them into the soil. They're natural predators, and their main food source is fungus gnat larvae. They hunt them down and eat them.
Wow. Fighting nature with nature. Are they effective?
Sounds like it. The source says they work well above 12 degrees Celsius, so fine for indoors, and they can apparently survive for a while even if the gnat larva population drops. Plus, they might eat other soil pests too, like thrips pupa, kind of multi-purpose little helpers.
Interesting. Good to know they're not too fussy.
Yeah.
Any other simple methods mentioned? Something about temperature extremes.
Yeah, the source makes a specific point. Freezing the soil won't kill them. Don't bother putting your plants in the freezer.
Okay, good to know.
But drying out the soil does kill them, which circles back to that prevention tip. Letting the soil dry out properly between waterings isn't just defensive, it's offensive too. It directly harms the existing larvae and pupa. Seems like managing moisture is really the absolute key.
Okay, so Kesser and Steen have got the intel. They know the enemy, the life cycle, the battle plan, options, prevention through drying, active combat with mites or more drying. But the source makes it clear. Their quest to save Aunt Green's pumpkins isn't over yet.
No, definitely not. It brings us back to the students themselves. They're determined. They want to get rid of these gnats and, deal with the damage that's already been done to the roots. Give the plants a chance.
And they're tackling it like proper young scientists, aren't they?
Wow.
Documenting things, seeking expert advice.
Yeah, very methodical. They got that diagnosis from the garden center expert. They were even looking for new seeds. The source says they went to Oma's house, Grandma's house maybe, looking for seeds.
Maybe to start fresh, applying everything they've learned from the beginning.
Could be. Starting new plants in soil they know is clean, managing watering carefully right away. It makes sense. And then, while they were at the garden center, the story takes this really cool, unexpected turn.
Oh, what happened?
They met someone called Glitter Fran.
Glitter Fran at the garden center.
Huh?
Okay, tell me about Glitter Fran.
The source just describes her as a horse girl. And she shared this piece of traditional knowledge. She told them about an old remedy, something used to treat worms in horses.
Worms and horses, okay.
And the remedy uses a specific plant, sea mugwort.
Sea mugwort, also known as sea wormwort, the source says. Wormwort, that sounds relevant. And it's related to absinthe. Okay, this is getting wild. So a horseworm remedy using wormwort, and Kesser saw a connection.
Apparently, yeah. The source says he quickly saw a potential connection. It's that innovative thinking, right? He must have thought, okay, if this plant extract works against internal worms or parasites in horses, maybe it could work against the worms, the fungus gnat larvae acting as parasites on the plant roots.
That's brilliant. Connecting traditional animal remedies to plant pest control, using the name wormwort as the clue.
It's a leap, but a really creative one. Taking input from an unexpected source, Glitter Fran the horse girl, and applying it scientifically.
So what's their plan with this sea mugwort idea? While they wait for new seeds or decide on mites?
Their plan is to actually find some sea mugwort and then try making some kind of extract from it, like a strong herbal tea, maybe. They want to experiment. See if this old remedy has any effect on the fungus gnat larvae in the soil. It's like historical botany meets pest control.
This is fantastic. They're blending expert advice, their own observations, and exploring folk wisdom. That's real initiative. But it sounds like they also know this isn't necessarily a magic bullet.
Oh, yeah, they're realistic. Kesser acknowledges in the source that this is an ongoing process. He figures, if there's still larvae hatching or eggs in the soil, getting rid of them completely and letting the plants recover, it could take maybe up to 2 months.
Wow, 2 months. That takes persistence.
It does, and you really sense Steen's empathy for Aunt Green coming through, too.
How so?
He feels bad for her because he realizes this whole mess probably wasn't even her fault. It likely started when she just bought a plant, maybe from that same garden center, or somewhere else that already had fungus gnats in the soil. She brought the problem home totally unknowingly.
Ah, the Trojan horse plant. Yeah, that happened so easily. She just wanted some nice pumpkins.
Exactly, and ended up with tiny root-eating tigers instead.
So this deep dive leaves Kesser and Steen right in the middle of their mission. They've cracked the case, identified the fungus gnat larvae. They're armed with knowledge about fighting them. But their actual adventure, putting it all into practice, maybe even using sea mugwort tea, that's really just unfolding now.
It is. The source material captures that moment perfectly. The investigation, the diagnosis, and now the action plan, which includes this really interesting experimental twist. We see their determination.
And it leaves us, and you listening, with some big questions the source doesn't answer yet. Will they actually get rid of the gnats for good? What method or combination of methods will work best? The drying, the mites, the wormwort experiment, and the million-dollar question for Aunt Green. After all this, will she get her pumpkins or squash this year? Will the plants recover and thrive?
It's a great little story, isn't it? Science, nature, observation, a bit of luck meeting Glitter Fran, all triggered by tiny flies in a window. Makes you wonder, How many everyday problems have these complex natural stories behind them, just waiting for someone to look a little closer?
Absolutely. And if you want to follow Kesser and Steen's progress, see how their experiments turn out, and find out if Ant Green finally gets her harvest, well, you want to stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe or follow the channel so you don't miss the next chapter in Kesser and Steen's Fungus Gnat saga.